Hey, welcome back to Girls That Truck. If you like my content, don't forget to like and subscribe. Again, I am a fleet owner. I am located in Mulberry, Florida. My dad started this company in 1998. I've been running it independently by myself after he passed for about 2 years. But prior to that, I worked for him for about 8 years. So I'm not new to the industry by any means. I did get or inherit or take over, whatever you want to call it, a trucking company in what I like to think of as the biggest freight recession in like the last decade. I'm young, I'm not that young, so I've been around the block a couple of times. So my last video I made was my year-end statements for my guys, and then I got a request for like a weekly total. So I did an average paycheck, an average gross for my drivers last year. So I took their gross income for the year and divided it by how many weeks they worked out of that year. And then that gave me an average per week that they were making. Somebody asked if I could make a weekly breakdown. So that's what I'm going to do. So I have 4 paychecks in front of me. One of them is going to be one of the guys that drives my tractors. And then the other 3 are owner operators, and they are all reefer guys. All 3 of these are reefer guys. So because last week was a holiday week, MLK Day was on Monday, this is actually for an 8-day pay period. Last week I had to file my payroll a day early because the banks were going to be closed on Monday. So this payroll is going to be from Wednesday, anything that they picked up last Wednesday afternoon, all the way until this morning at like noon. So it's like a little less than 8 days total. So I'm just going to jump right into it. The first guy that I'm going to talk about, he actually drives an international Max Force. I know everybody downs that engine. Knock on wood, this guy has not had any problems. So he did, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4. He did 4 runs. One of these is a detention, and then the other one is a truck order not used. He got screwed on a load yesterday. So the first one is going to be a detention. That was just for $125. I give him 70% of the detention. So his first load is actually going to be from Florida to South Carolina. That paid $900. The next load he did from South Carolina was he picked up in North Carolina and came back to Florida with it. That load paid $1,800. After that, he did a Florida to Alabama for $1,100. And then he went from Alabama to Tennessee for $1,050, and then he got a truck order not used for $250. So I have $125, $900, $1,800, $1,100, $1,050, and $250. Now these are gross totals. So then you times those by the percentage, which is what I pay my drivers. I pay them 70%, which gives him a gross take-home amount of $3,657.50. Now that is his gross take-home amount. Now we're going to get into deductions. Like I've told you guys before, I do not charge any deductions. I do not charge for IFTA. I do not charge for trailer rentals. I do not charge for ACH deposits. There are no hidden fees at my company. The one thing that I do pay, that I do weekly charges for, is $125 insurance installment. It is $125 every single week across the board, no matter what, if you work or don't work. Now, that being said, at the end of the month, all I ask my drivers to do is work 16 loads, which essentially equates to 16 days of the month. If they meet that criteria, I pay them back the $125 per week for the month. So if there's 4 weeks in the month, they get $500 back. If there's 5 weeks in that month, they get $625 back. So that's how I do it. So this driver's gross was $3,657.50. I took out my $125 insurance charge. I purchased a belt for his truck for him. That was only $20.68. So I took that back. And then his fuel purchases totaled $1,086.76. So his earnings were $3657.50. His fuel was $1,086.76. He had deductions of $145.68. Now that is going to be for the insurance installment that I charge, and then also the belt that I purchased for him. So his take home, his net, what is being deposited into his bank account for this week is $2,425.06. It's one driver. Reefer guy, again, an 8-day pay period. The next guy that I'm going to talk about, this is also a reefer guy, same thing, owner-operator, they make 70%. He did a load from Wisconsin to Lakeland, and let's see, let me start the opposite direction. He started out in Alabama, went to Ohio for a total of $1,250, Ohio to Minnesota for $1,200, and then from Wisconsin back down to Florida for $6,000. $6,000 plus $1,200 plus $1,250 times 70% brought him a gross take-home pay of $5,915. Again, he has the deduction of the $125 insurance installment. He owes the mechanic here some money for doing some work on his truck, so he made a $1,200 payment to the mechanic here on site. And then also I have a fuel card. If you use the fuel card out of network, there is a $5 charge per out of network fee. So he used the fuel card out of network 2 times for a $10 charge. His total diesel that he purchased is $2,657.52. So he brought home, his gross pay was $5,915. He spent $2,657.52 in diesel fuel. He had total deductions with the payment to the mechanic he made, his insurance installment to me, and then his $10 for out-of-network fuel purchases. Had a total deduction amount of $1,335. So his bring home pay net deposit that's gonna go into his bank account is $1,922.48. My third guy that I'm going to talk about, this is another owner-operator driving a reefer on an 8-day pay this week. Did a total of 4 loads. He started in North Carolina, went to Indiana for $1,400, Indiana to Florida for $2,915. He did a Florida to Florida run for $650, and then he did a Florida to Alabama run for $1,100. $1,400 plus $2,915 plus $650 plus $1,100 times his 70% is $4,245.50. Same thing. He has a deduction of $125 for his insurance payment, and then he has one $5 charge for using his fuel card out of network for a total deduction amount of $130. He spent $806.37 in fuel, which seems a little bit low to me, so I'm going to assume that this driver purchased some fuel on his own. So you take his gross pay, which is $4,245.50. Let's subtract out the fuel that he bought with my fuel card. Again, I think there's probably more fuel here. This is just what he purchased with my fuel card that I can see, is $806.37. Deductions for $130, which he is bringing a net take-home pay, which is what I'm depositing into his bank account today, of $3,309.13. Now, I know a lot of people are interested in how I pay the drivers that drive my truck. So here we go. This driver did 3 runs in the last week, or last 8 days, whatever you want to call it. My drivers have no expenses at all. They don't do the weekly insurance payment. They don't pay for fuel. They don't pay for anything. So this guy did a Oklahoma to Texas run for $1,100, a Florida to Oklahoma run for $2,200, and then he did an Alabama to Florida run for $2,300. So we have $1,100, $2,200, and $2,300, and then I times that by the percentage that I pay my drivers, which is 25%, which gives him a take-home pay of $1,400. Now, he did buy a couple of things for my truck while he was over the road. He did purchase diesel fuel for $275. Guess he was at a truck stop. Their fuel pumps were down, or the card reader was down, whatever it was. Anyways, he paid out of pocket for the fuel that night instead of waking us up in the middle of the night, which I greatly, greatly appreciate. So I paid him back $275 for the fuel purchase, and then he also bought some fuel after treatment for $40. So his grand total with the reimbursements for the money that I owed him was $1,716.43. But what he actually made as a truck driver was $1,400. So those are real numbers. This is from an 8-day work week for my guys because last week was a holiday, so I had to pay early. So this is going to be Wednesday afternoon to Thursday. Normally my pay periods run Thursday morning to Thursday morning, so 7 days. So this is just a little different circumstances, but these are real numbers. These are live. This is what I'm depositing into their bank account right now. So I just wanted to update you guys on what my guys are doing. Let me know if you have any other questions. Have a great day. Like and subscribe to my channel. Bye.